live from the BoD studio. It is Playin and Slayin, episode 81, otherwise known as We Went to BoD Con.
Yay!
And although we did not record there, we did make many memories to tell you all about our own little miniature board game convention at the Gamers Ranch in Bland, Missouri. In Bland is probably false because it's in nothing.
Nothing near somewhere. Yeah.
But yeah, so that is our episode primarily is talking about our trip to Missouri. Just a few days ago, we got back home after the better part of 4 days, spent gaming, hanging out, running 5Ks, and doing all sorts of other stuff. So before all that, we are rejoined by Josh this episode after a brief hiatus where we talked about building a community, and according to Josh Troy, we did not mention his name once. I think we did. So I'd like a listener to tell me where we talked about him. But we named two other Joshes. So
yeah, supposedly.
For those of you scoring at home, I just want to mention him in the first minute of the show that he is an integral part of this community and a founding member of the BoD. Without him, none of this would have been possible.
We will bound to say my name at some point, right? Like, I don't need a chapter of the book. I just need like a footnote. Like, that's fine. Just a footnote.
Josh, we will apologize here on the air that if we did not, because actually if we didn't, that would be because I think we would have struggled if we would intentionally have tried to do that. So the fact that we may have somehow, I think it was just like you were here. We treated it like you were here, so we felt like we didn't have to mention you. So
it was pretty funny though. It was good.
Yeah.
Now, part of the reason why we don't mention Josh anymore is because when you're playing in Slayin, it's important to stay hydrated, and he hasn't had a new beer in years. So, Troy, what are you drinking tonight?
All right, I had to think of what we were going to do. I pulled this, the old BoD glassware out of the thing, but Ty, can you guess? It was the drink that you invented at BoD Con.
That's the one daily. It's Tito's and the billionaire
liquid death.
The liquid death.
The lemonade tea. Vodka. I do not have Tito's at home, so I had to go with the Prairie organic vodka, but it still works as vodka.
Nice.
Excellent.
But this was an excellent use for liquid death. What is it? Dead Billionaire? Something like that. So
yeah, it's their rendition of an Arnold Palmer.
Yeah. So I thought it would be good to do that for I might have went, this is like a Thai level of vodka in here, though. I think the ice threw me off.
You'll manage.
So if I'm, so we'll see in the second half if I'm slurring a little more than usual.
Troy's going to be coming in hot.
That's what's going on there. So
now, Josh, the second time I'll explicitly mention you. What are you drinking tonight?
Blue Gatorade. It's blue Gatorade.
You got to cover the label. We don't have the sponsorship.
A blue sports drink.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I went back to the Holy Havoc glass, and I filled it with a very thick, and I need to stir it up. It's There Will Be Pert. It's a strawberry milkshake beer from Drecker. These are some of the ones that Bryce introduced us to, or at least introduced me to at one of our weekenders. So I went into the depths of the fridge and drew it out, and it's very thick and tasty, and it's settled a little bit, so I need to keep shaking it.
It's very red too. It looks like it smells good.
Very very sweet.
Yeah.
A little bit of tartness. But yeah, There Will Be Pert. It's like PRRRT. I don't really get the reference, but That's what I'm drinking.
That's we'll have to look
Got
that up.
like a cat on it or something, like purr.
No, it's like a zombie or something.
Oh.
I don't know.
For more shows like this, check out the Goonhammer Media Network. More info at media.goonhammer.com.
All right, now we are going to get into what we refer to as the banter and talk a little bit about what we've been playing, any hobby going on, kickstarting, little trip into reading media content in the BoD Library. But a lot of the games played, we're going to wait for our main segment, talk about when we review our experience at the Gamers Ranch for BoD Con. So this will be some of the lead up, or perhaps some of the things we've played in the days since. So I'm going to start with what is probably one of my new favorite games. And we got together with Josh right before BoD Con, and I brought over a copy of Arcs, Cole Worley's design game by Leader. I always forget how to pronounce them.
I think Letter.
Same guy who did
Root,
Forest Creatures, Root, and Oath, which is like the Kingdom control game. But it is a space opera game, and we'll briefly talk about it because I think it's worth taking a little bit of time. What it does is your classic kind of exploration, combat in the space, but everything is driven by a trick-taking card play for action selection. So there's 4 suits. Each suit has a corresponding like type of actions available, and then cards valued 1 through 7 if you're playing a 4-player game, 2 through 6 in each suit, and you kind of lead. And when you lead your action, you get to do everything on the card. And then if you can play a higher card, they call it a surpass action of the same suit, you can take your actions from your card. But if you can't or don't want to, you have to either pretend you have a card of that suit and play a card face down called Toppy, which gives you only 1 action, or the last option is to pivot, where you put a card down of a different suit and get 1 action from that card. There's a whole like other layer with initiative and how the card playing works, but I thought it was worth mentioning that kind of action economy. And like it really changes how the game's played. Your traditional game, you kind of plan your turn out, you're thinking about it, but in this you're reacting so often to what cards you're dealt, what the person before you did, or who led the hand, who had the initiative, and you have to just quickly kind of change plans and adapt and go a different direction. How did that make you guys feel playing Arcs? And this could even be like a main topic at some point, is reviewing Arcs, because we play it more. But it made me uncomfortable the first several turns because I didn't know what to do. And then I kind of just got used to it and started thinking about a few options and then seeing what was led. But how did that, like, what was your guys' comfort level with selecting actions and not being able to really plan too far ahead?
Yeah, I mean, Josh, you didn't play. I think we'll talk a little bit because we did play this again at BoD Con, and I would say I got a lot more out of, like, the second play was a lot different in terms of, now again, I don't know if it was any more or less. I had a good first half of the game, the second game, because I felt like I knew what I was doing. I didn't handle my second half how to handle a different, I want to say a bad set of cards, because I don't know you ever get a bad set. You just get, what happens, you may get a set of cards that doesn't align, like you can't, like you make a plan, and then you get a set of cards that just doesn't gonna do that. And if you can't figure out, like, okay, how do I want to say pivot because that's overused, and that's actually a game mechanic. If they could change direction in your strategy, like, you're gonna struggle in some of that. But I think a good game in that, like, even right now as you're saying it, Ty, I'm already like, next time we play, I want it, like, as soon as you quit, you want to, like, all right, how can I, like, next time, what could I do, or how could that kind of play out, which doesn't happen with a lot of games, but that one, yeah, at least it feels like it's something we want to get back, just because you want to get another turn of the crank at it. So I think it's this weird balance around and about. I think there's also this how do you overcome your biases around the wanting to maximize the cards you have versus no, I need to just get some of these actions, even though that may not be the most economic worth of these cards. But you know what? Doing 2 actions of something that I don't need to do versus 1 action that I do need to do. Or again, I don't know if Ty, you talked a little bit about you have to have initiative to kind of set the scoring. There's 5 different levels, types of scoring that can come out after a chapter. And if in order to actually score, you need to kind of be that first one to lead that. Unless, again, you can play very passive and hope, well, maybe somebody else will do this. And I think you'll just fail because you can't, you have to at some point seize kind of the initiative and do the things that you need to happen. And then if you get lucky and somebody else is doing some of that and you can kind of coattail along, that's great. I think that's like, you might, but I don't think you can ever, because I found myself doing that trying to do that a little bit. And you're like, oh, you're just going to feel sad because you can't assume that somebody else's table is going to kind of do what you want to happen. So,
and if somebody else is doing the thing that you want to happen, sometimes they leapfrog you, right? And then they end up taking the points. And it's like, well, all right, well, I did all that for very little or nothing, right? Yeah. So, the first time we played before we went to BoD Con, I felt like it took a turn or two to like kind of sort of figure it out. And then I felt like I got an engine going, and then the last turn or two, I just got crushed, right? Like, yeah, I think there was a thought that I was way ahead, and maybe I was, maybe I wasn't, I don't know. Yeah. But like there was a turning point where the cards I had, I ran out of gas, right? I showed my hand essentially, and everybody knew what I was trying to do, and then it was like, so you almost have to like, even if you have a strategy, you almost need to like wait till the last minute to actually execute on that strategy so that other people can't block you too. So there's a lot of strategy to it, and it's really it's an interesting game. I really like it.
Yeah, and that kind of waiting thing, I definitely think there are turns that lend themselves to doing that. I think about the second time we played, and like I knew I was gonna let a couple ambitions come out, and the moment that whoever led didn't call it in like the 3rd or 4th turn, I was gonna burn a card to seize the initiative so that I could guarantee I could get the one I needed with my last action and score a ton of points off of it. So like there are ways where you can waste actions in the future to like do something now by stealing initiative, which is super helpful for declaring the ambition. And like you really pay attention to the suit of the cards you have and like what ambition can be declared off of them. And the ambitions are the objectives that escalate too. So as you play through the game, your ambitions get assigned higher points value. So like there's 3 tokens with points like 3, 4, 5, and then you flip the 3 and it becomes like a 6, and then the 5 flips. So like later turns, everything's worth more points. I like the card row. We didn't talk about that. There's like a row of these guild cards that add dynamics, and you can influence by adding guys onto them and then like secure them by trying to claim them and put them in your play area. And they count for resources. They give you extra types of actions. And then in the box, there's a leaders and lore expansion, and there's a separate one you can buy, but it gives like faction leaders that give you kind of overarching abilities and creates a little bit more narrative to the game, and lore, which is like random technology and things that help. So there's a ton of variability there, which kind of leads me. I think it's so the design concept is crazy, like how deep it is, but it's very elegant. Like it's laid out in a very clear way, and it works. Like the game just reaches this kind of flow state where you're taking these turns and like play's going pretty quick. And And there's just so much replayability there. Like I feel like having played it twice, I didn't even scratch the surface, like
Right.
of what the game has to offer, which makes me want to, get it out and play it again.
Get it. And I think, and I like for the complexity, because as you'd hear us talk, you're like, oh, there's a lot. And I think you talked about it, Ty, right? Like there is all this stuff, but in the end, you really only have a few choices that you're going to be able to do. And the turns go fairly quick. The game length overall is not that long. Like I think you can play whatever it is, 3 to 5 chapters. Both times we played, we've only made 3. And that somebody's always kind of had to hit the scoring max at the third. And and I don't know, and they felt like, I don't know, around 2 hours, right? And I think it's even with us teaching people both times around some of that. So
yeah,
I like the length, but I like all the, I would say complexity is not the right, like that elegance you talked about. Like there's all these different kind of moving pieces, and how they kind of all interplay with each other. But overall, there's some there's some simplicity there that's kind of just layered on top of each other, that makes it, like you said, just that elegance which is really cool.
Yeah, so it definitely goes to the top of the play it again soon list. And I think it's we don't really play it or slay it anymore, but I think we're all playing it.
Yep. Yeah, it was a good last minute, because I don't know, Ty, it just came out, right, or just available in retail, and you were able to snag a copy kind of that week. So
yeah, friendly local game store, Board Game Barrister Greenfield had it in stock, so I just snapped it up quick because it's already out of stock a lot of places, or they're charging pretty hefty price tag for it. So
Crazy. Arcs.
ARCS, ARCS, ARCS. What the heck is this next one?
Yeah, so this is an interesting game. I don't know if you guys have heard of the game Tenzi, where you have 10 dice, and you just basically it's just a roll them as fast as you can until you get all of the same number. It's just sort of like a party style game. Well, they did all these spin-off games with a ZI at the end, right? So this one's called Build Z. You have basically like 8 Tetris style blocks. So there's like the little L, and there's like a little T, and there's all the different things. There's some weird ones too. There's like a W and various styles. And you get 10 cards as well. And so you start with your blocks in front of you and your cards, and everybody kind of has their blocks and their cards, and you flip over the first card, and that's what you have to play at the bottom. And so then you have to stack them on top of each other and make them stand for like 2 seconds right before they fall down. It's super fun. Like, so it's clearly it's a kid's game, right? It's a dexterity game.
Yeah.
But it's super fun because like, sometimes they end up like tipping to the side and they like still stand up, right? So you're trying to get them to build up. My daughter loves playing it. It's super fun. So yeah, I know it's
Nice.
it's a fun little dexterity game.
How do your big hands do with blocks?
That's the problem, right? She's kicking my butt every time. So another kind of dex game, Tinder Blocks. So it's by Alley Cat Games. This one's sort of new, or that, well, I found it recently. It might not be super new, but basically you're building a campfire. So there's little logs that you use like a tweezers, and you're placing things. So it's a flip a card. You either get like a log or like little cubes, and there's red cubes and yellow cubes. And so you have to stack those cubes on top of the campfire. And so you're building up on top of this campfire until it falls over, right? So whoever flips the card over, or whoever knocks over the campfire, is the loser. So, again, just a fun, kid game. My daughter thinks it's really fun. I just happened to see it and grabbed it. So, and it's super small too, which is nice for like, if you're going on vacation or if you just want to play. You could play it in an airport too. It's like super small, right? So,
I think there's a market there. There's a market there, Josh.
Airport
we make the adult version of tinder blocks, and they're actually flammable. And you have to place them as they're burning, and
they fall onto you and you get on fire. Yeah. And then Tsuro. So I played that at that was one of the first games. I don't want to spoil it, but that was one of the first games I played at BoD Con, and I was sort of like, I really need to pick this up for home. So I grabbed it just recently, and my daughter and I played it tonight, and she's 6. She's gonna be 7, and she totally picked it up. You can play this with young kids. Like it's not that hard, right? And it is now her favorite game. She told me this tonight, so I was like, sweet, that's awesome.
Yeah, so, Tsuro is a classic. I mean, classic. It's been on it's probably been around for more than 10 years now, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some simplicity to it. Even if you're older, it's like you still have to pay attention, like you can
right. Yeah.
around that. But it also, again, right, I mean, 15 minutes, you run through a round. Yeah, so a really nice filler game, a nice one to play with families or different levels of gamers. Good gateway kind of game. And I think there are a couple. The base Tsuro is out there. I think they did a couple different ones. I think the mechanics are the same. They just have the dragons, which I think they're dragon little pieces there, so they're moving around or something. I think there's one that's like a water one or something. There may be some tiles that have slightly different rules to them. Basically, you're building a path. If you haven't played Tsuro, the idea is each of the tiles has kind of whatever different paths on it, and you're trying to move your guy around be the last one left on the board, because eventually the whatever it is, 5x5, 6x6 grid is going to fill up, and as the paths, and you can do stuff to run your neighbors into the wall or into each other or something else like that. So yeah.
And I thought maybe it had been Tsuro that Will Wheaton played on tabletop back in 2014. Speaking of 10 years ago, but that was actually Tsuro of the Seas.
There we go.
And that was the one that came out after. Yeah. So Tsuro's even older than 10 years at this point.
Yeah. I know mine on my shelf's been there for quite a while. That was, I remember I played with my mom. I always play with mine.
Nice. Yeah, it was like, I thought I had it, and I looked in my closet. I'm like, I don't. I got to go grab it. So.
Nice. Well, let's talk about 3D printing. Hobby. That's all we do for hobby anymore. Nobody paints. Nobody builds stuff.
Right? Hobby was really, for me, around BoD Con. So printing the awards and helping my wife. So she cricketed the bags, the swag bags. So I helped her iron those on. So, yep. Troy is showing them for folks watching on the YouTubes. So yeah.
As you all should be doing.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the Basement of Death. Watch Playin and Slayin on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Share with your friend. Oh, wait. I'm skipping ahead.
But yeah, that was pretty much my hobby. It was just getting ready for BoD Con.
Cool. Procurement is hobby. So real quick, I have no idea if this works. For people looking on the video, I bought a little smoke machine for maybe Hero Quest, maybe Space Hulk. We'll see. What's funny is it's kind of like, it's speaking of 3D printed, like most of this is actually 3D printed, like the guts or whatever, and then the case is just 3D printed parts. We'll see. Supposedly I'll come back with a report. We'll see if I can smoke out our Hero Quest board, our 3D Hero Quest board first. That'll be it. And then maybe we'll have some speed smoke on that. Then right before we left, I'm like, why did I get a box from Simon? And what it was there were the what they called the comic book extras for, I think they did for Zombicide and Hate is what I held up. I don't even own the game Hate, but these miniatures looked really cool. So I was like, sure, worst case, I'll just sell them on the secondary market if I don't, but they looked really cool. I like the idea of hate. I think when I looked at the game, I'm like, I'm not ever really probably going to play this, but I love Adrian Smith's artwork. Like the idea of the game. And so this was a way to get some pieces. That was a way to get some stuff from hate without having to do that. Some Zombicide Invader guys, extra guys, because you never can have enough guys. Same for Zombicide, Black Plague, and even the new White Death stuff. They have some stuff they stuck on there. And then I need to open this up. Then this big hate art book. Again, I don't own the game Hate, but again, it's about seeing Adrian Smith stuff and art and whatever. So that was a nice surprise that came in the mail as just as we were walking out, and I'll have to break that open and paint even more people and read some a little bit more.
Kickstarter.
Ty, I'm going to get you here. Did you click on this link?
I did. Tabletop RPG.
Yeah, Viking, Norse, called Berserker. Kind of related, inspired by is it Mork Bork? It's not the same guys.
Graphic novel, right?
No, but this is all. There is an anime called Berserker, but this is different. This is the.
Oh, it's not connected to that at all?
No. This is just a pure Norse god kind of RPG related to like I said, I think it's Mork Bork. Not the same guys, but they're related to it, and they took their inspiration, I think, from the rules from that. And that the Mork Bork is, if people haven't seen that, that's like it's kind of dark metal. I keep looking at it because I'm like, this looks really cool, but again, something like, even for me, I'm like, whoa, this is pretty just very dark, very kind of like total. It's very metal, but even very dark metal, very, I know some people like that, but this looked good. It was, so that's what got me, like, I saw that, like, ooh, that looks really cool. Cause this looks like a little slightly different, like inspired by some of that, but kind of set in more of the Norse mythology things. Looks like they have like very kind of cool. So again, it could be one where never actually get it to the table, but looks pretty cool. And it's kind of cool to support people doing cool stuff. So I might have like thrown in at least give me the book to at least check out. So, and I feel like Ty might stick his toe in the water here. We'll see.
Yeah. Very possible.
And it should still be going. I think it'll have, again, if you're listening at some time after it's come out in July, there's, I think it has a couple or 3 or so weeks to go yet. So, and then I'm sure it'll be available on retail sometime after that.
This is not hobby, but it's procurement. Now that I bought it, I saw, and I didn't know they'd done this for 2nd edition Zombicide. They have character packs for Supernatural, so Sam and Dean.
Oh, yep.
Characters, and I'd missed that originally, so I saw that, and Landon and I have been watching Supernatural, so I'm like, how cool would that be to do scenarios with Sam and Dean? So went and bought the character packs out off the Simon store on Amazon.
Very cool.
Damn you, Bezos. Damn you. And then I also I pre-ordered, but the pre-release weekend and everything was while we were at BoD Con, but the new Star Wars Unlimited set, Shadows of the Galaxy, came out. So I got the starter decks for that and a box of boosters. I already started opening a few packs of the new set. So very much like that card game. I think it might be fun to even try a draft some night or something, but I'm going to struggle to keep the packs in the box and not open them. So pick that up. Any other Kickstarter or procurement items of nerdery, geekdom, fandom, pop culture? All right.
No.
Let's go into the library. So I haven't done a lot of reading recently. I've been playing a lot of computer games, but and coaching baseball. But now baseball is done, and I should have some more time for hobby and reading. But I have been reading more Christopher Buehlman. So I got Between Two Fires. I think I might have mentioned it when we were recording, but I've been reading a little further in that, and it's getting very dark, very very tense. He also, unsurprisingly, can write Gothic horror very well, as he writes fantasy very well. Because I can't read too much because it makes me just feel uncomfortable. And then The Daughter's War will be next up. I read the first few pages. Really, really love that world. And this is Gelva's story. If you've read Black Tongue Thief, you know Gelva is kind of the knight, the warrior that travels with Kinch. And it's a prequel, talks about her story. And I'm almost done with the Rhaeria books on Audible. Michael Sullivan, kind of about two thieves that are going on quests, trying to find lost treasures in a relatively low magic world with a lot of politics and, not over the top combat descriptions. It's just more character driven, which is good. So recommend those. But that's it. I haven't watched anything. I haven't really listened to much, but continuing to read through Buellman. And Troy found an incredible gift, which I could talk about in BoD Con, but and now I'm gonna the Broken Binding. I think they do limited edition, like they do art on the side of the page side of the book. Basically, it looks like hand painted and author signed series. So they had a set of Black Tongue Thief and Daughter's War. So that has been added to the bookshelf upstairs to display to the world or whoever comes into my house. So very cool. I went on their website too. So I would mention that it's worth taking a look at everything they do. Broken Binding.
Yeah, Broken Binding. The only sad part is because all their stuff is limited edition, it's sometimes really hard to get a hold of copies of what you want. I just missed out on some Abercrombie stuff that they just did. But they do have, in the near future, Malazan. They're doing a version of the first 3 Malazan books. I don't know. Oh, wow. Yeah, I might have to try and, kill some people to try and get and see if we can get a copy of kind of that. But it's but their stuff, that's a trick. They do a subscription kind of thing. They gotcha because they do some good stuff. So what they do is that you get it like a subscription where then you're on this very limited list, but you then have to buy everything they kind of do. I'm sure if there's sets that you don't want, you could resell them probably pretty easily and things like that. But they which makes sense for them because then they kind of have a set of known income, right? It's recurring income kind of thing like that. And then they do have usually extras that they kind of put out, but those are very limited and it's hard to get in alone. But so I'm going to be trying to see if I can get some of the Malazan stuff that's coming up soon.
Very cool. What else? What have you been binging / reading?
So I just got, I was sort of between books and I was like, what should I start? And I just realized I hadn't finished book 5 of the King's Dark Tidings. So Dragons and Demons. I just picked that up and just started. So I'm really early on, but I remember liking that series, and I don't know why I didn't read the last one. So I'm kind of a completionist too. Like if I start a series, like even if I'm not like too super into it, I'll still finish it usually. But I remember liking that series, so I don't know what I was doing there. But I'm gonna finish that up, and then started Fallout before BoD Con. I watched a couple. Yeah, so I hadn't dove headfirst in yet. So I'm like 2 or 3 episodes in.
Yeah, I'm about the same. You just reminded me because I had started it and then I forgot to go back. Yeah, I started 2 episodes in, and I never played the computer game a lot. Again, I guess if you're anywhere, you kind of you get exposed to the world through everything. So
right.
It was pretty cool to go through that. And I'm a couple episodes into and enjoying that to see where that story goes.
Yeah, for sure. And then X-Men 97. I don't know. I think I have like 1 or 2 episodes left to go on that. I'm doing what Ty does with books, or what you do with books. I'm into like 50 different things. for whatever reason. And then my wife and I usually don't like to watch the same stuff. But I had heard that Baby Reindeer was a little crazy and nutty, and
Yeah.
she had heard the same from a friend. Like, she's like, "Oh, I heard this show was sort of crazy and might be interesting." And I was like, "Okay, what's it called?" And she's like, "Baby Reindeer." And I'm like, "All right, let's do it."
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty wild. I won't spoil anything, but it's kind of a very interesting story. So I think we're about halfway through right now, and it's creepy. Like, it's definitely, stalker related, and
Yeah.
all
It's
that
like
kind of
is
stuff.
it like a comedian and like a
Yeah.
stalker on the, and
Yeah,
it's right, semi autobiographical, right? Supposedly.
Supposedly it's based on a true story. Yeah,
I
this
think
guy's a
enough that the
comedian.
lady was suing him, so that probably means it's probably is pretty close to real, like what happened.
Right.
And that's my guess, is like if she's mad enough to sue, it's probably
Right.
spot on. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, he's a struggling comedian. He's working in a bar, and this lady keeps coming in, and he's just nice to her. Like, at the
Yeah.
beginning, he's just like, I kind of felt bad for her. She didn't seem like she had any friends, so I was nice to her. And then it spirals into this whole stalking thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about Santa Claus and the North Pole.
It is not. It is not.
Yeah.
No. The title has nothing to do. Well, I mean, she calls him Baby Reindeer. That's the only thing that, yeah, that's like her nickname for him, for I don't know what reason. I never.
Red flag.
Right. Big red flag. But it's interesting. Like, it's creepy, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's still interesting. Like, you still want to, like, yeah, I don't know. I want to find out how it ends, right? So.
Yep.
Anyway,
Well, he doesn't die. We know that.
well, you don't know that.
Well, I guess I don't. We don't in real life. He doesn't die. So
Right.
who knows what's going to happen in the show?
Right. How about you, Troy?
My list is really short. Well, at least since last time I was talking on here. So I finished Dungeon Crawler Carl 3. You guys talked about it. There might be something about a railroad or something like that.
Oh yeah, that one was interesting.
I enjoyed it. It's funny. I enjoy it, but I don't know what the right, like. It feels like the books are like 2 hours too long, because I get about 2/3 of the way through, and I'm like, all right, I get it. Can we wrap it up? And then luckily, I usually then speed up listening, my listening speed, and then, believe it or not, it's like, oh, then it starts rolling into the last 2 hours, hour and a half that really wraps up the book. And so, yeah, again, they are what they are. I enjoy it.
Right.
It's a good thing, but it is, yeah, I don't know. There's something to say. Like, it just feels like they maybe slice 15 to 20% out of it, and it would be just the right length for me. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think even more, the more I think about like why I'm struggling with some of them, is not because they're not funny or entertaining. It is because they're just too long to get to the point. There's way too much exposition and meaningless, like, characters and dialogue, and it really needs to be like an 8-episode, 45-minute like cartoon, like limited, like Amazon did with Critical Role. Like that.
Yep.
That would be enough for me. It would be like 9-10 episodes, 30-40 minutes long, characters, story, give it to me that. But the 26-hour book or whatever they are, it's just too much, and it starts to lose me. And then it does. There are parts that bring me back, and like it's entertaining, the voice acting, and I keep going to that, like the voice acting, and
there's no, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for what's his name, Jeff Hayes. Yeah. Like,
he does a great job. Yeah,
it's good. And I don't know if I even did on the other books. I might have listened to part of it. So I absolutely laughed out loud, lost it at the very end. Kind of, there's like a pretend commercial.
Yeah.
At the end, where it is, I like, it might be the fun. Like, I'm like, I'll just listen as I was finishing up, and I was rolling on the ground laughing because it was so like.
Yep. I almost missed it.
Right,
Because
it kind of starts, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, they're kind of calling back to something they do in the book and whatever, and then he starts. There's some self-reference between the author and it's like between Matt Dinniman and Jeff Hayes, like
Right. Really
it's kinda
funny.
fun. It's really funny. So if you are listening, listen all the way to the bitter end until the guy says, Audible hopes you've enjoyed this book, or whatever he said.
Yes. Yeah. Audible hopes you've enjoyed this program.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into the lake. Talk about BoD Con I, the BoD Conning. And we are back and ready to talk about BoD Con I, our first of hopefully many more mini board game conventions, aka extended BoD member weekender, really, because we started doing weekenders and talking about them a couple years back with Bryce and Josh, Troy, myself, and I think sometimes Tom has joined us or Raph has joined us. But this was kind of that concept, but on a grander scale. So talked about it leading up, but Gamers Ranch is it's not on Airbnb. It's not listed on a site. It's all through David at the Gamers Ranch on his website, and everything correspondence goes through him, booking, planning, everything. So one-man show. Really cool website that lays out just about everything that you would need to know in an FAQ, and like maps and pictures, and kind of gives you everything that you need for a group of up to 20 people to enjoy a minimum 3-night stay. Certainly could do longer, and I think we've talked about how it might even be cool to do like a travel day Wednesday and be there Wednesday night and then be there through until Sunday or something and extend a day. But highly recommend you check out the website. Highly recommend you look at plenty of reviews and other things out on YouTube from other content creators and places that have talked about it. But we are going to talk specifically and expressly about our own experience with going there for what we are affectionately calling a convention, the BoD Con, Basement of Death Con. Where the three of us and 7 others attended in Missouri. So let's just talk about the arrival. So we got to St. Louis Wednesday. Most of the group, I think, about 70% of us traveled or drove or flew into St. Louis Wednesday, stayed just kind of west of St. Louis, and hung out, had some drinks, played a game in the lobby to kick off the event. Then the next day, kind of did groceries, and about a 2-hour drive from St. Louis to the Gamers Ranch. And like, you turn off of the highway onto like
50,
a winding road, like a winding old country highway. Then you turn again, and you're on you turn through a case machine.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's what I call the first. That was the first indication that you're not in Kansas anymore. And we weren't in Kansas; we were in Illinois and then Missouri. But yeah, County Road A. You're driving along. It's a paved county road. I think we've all in that. I'm like, oh, you're nothing to do to there. But at some point, you're in, I don't know what little town it is. The road just kind of pulls into a Case tractor dealership. And you're like, where's the road? And then, luckily, if you look to your left, you see, oh, if I go kind of through here, the road's over there. That should have been our first indication that things were going to get a little bit. Because once you hit that, things start to get a little more, even more remote. So, yeah, once you get to the end of County A, as you said, Ty, then our next indication was
you turn off onto a gravel road, like just a dirt road, really. And it's narrow and it's kind of steep and turns at some points. And you know you're into it when you go over this little kind of concrete bridge that's about a car width wide over a creek.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And Josh is driving, and I've ridden with Josh a lot of places and a lot of times, and I've never seen Josh be so careful and slow, like driving as he was on this road going over that bridge. And like you get to the end of this, middle of this road after a few miles, and there's just a little sign and an open gate that's, like the lake trail or whatever. And we're like, is this it? We stop. We're like, are we sure? I double check the directions. I'm like, yeah, this is it. The gate's open. And because you can't see anything.
Can't see, right. Yep.
All the thick woods and trees and stuff. And then you turn in, and a short distance later, you just see it. And it's like you've arrived in the promised land. The lake, the house, like everything from the pictures. And it was a sunny day, so the lake was amazing, like reflecting the light off the water. And you go over the little dam into, pull up next to the house. And there's that get out of the car and just kind of take it all in. And then we walk in and we start unpacking. But like everybody's first instinct, I think, was to like look around. And Troy, I don't know if we can link the video or like any of the photos,
hopefully people that are listening, if you're listening to us, and after you listen to us, if you want to go jump on the YouTube version, listen to us again on the YouTube version, you'll be seeing, I'll drop in some of the pictures here. And then my intention too is I may put together just a short kind of separate video that kind of does a little bit more of a walkthrough on all the Gamers Ranch and some of the pictures we took while we were there and things like that. So yeah, so people who are honest with us with YouTube, you're probably seeing some of the pictures of the lake as we come in. So yeah, it was, and we literally stopped as we came, kind of like you talked about, you passed the threshold where all of a sudden you got out of the woods and you can see it. And I stopped and I said, John, you got to take a picture. Like I wanted to like hear, because this moment like was just this like, wow. Like, yeah, it's something to, right. You see the website, you see whatever, but that first thing of like, whoa, this is it. And you're still, I don't know, you're still, 50 acres away from it as you're looking at it across the lake and so forth.
So let's talk, before we talk about everything that's there and everything we did. Like, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I had an expectation of like what I was walking into. And then I had the reality of opening the door to the place and just seeing like the space. And pictures don't do justice to how big the rooms are. Mm-hmm. The game library, the arcade area, the kitchen, the open area, like the loft space, like none of the scale of the place, or even the lake for that matter.
Yep, right.
Or the property itself, the acreage, like you can only capture so much in photos. Like just blown away. And I had really high hopes and high expectations, like, and it over delivered, which was only helped make the weekend that much better. Cause like, it was constantly like discovering new things. And even if I thought something might've been there, it was like, oh wow, this is really this cool or this big or this awesome.
Yeah. The pictures make it look huge. And I remember walking in and going, this is bigger than I thought. Like, I was like, how is this possible? Like I told my wife that. She's like, it looked huge on the website. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
It's gigantic. Like it's so big. It's great. Like, and there's so much space, so it exceeded expectations.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think I think it's exceeded, because I was trying, was nothing that didn't meet or exceed what or nothing that I thought, or like, even when we're like, even the kitchen, like everything we needed and even more than what we needed, right, was there. In a lot of cases, I think the we were in the gaming space, but I think I'll call it the living area spaces, the bedrooms and whatever. Again, everything was great. I was actually surprised on you guys, like how quiet, like if you were away from the areas and whatever, like it was fairly quiet. If you were up in kind of the living loft areas and whatever, there wasn't a lot, which was, again, I thought too, I mean, you'd think a space like that could be right that, but it was easy to kind of get away and move stuff. So I trying to think. There's nothing that kind of like didn't, and even the outside spaces, right? I mean,
the patio
had all its stuff in there, kayaks, right? I mean, we didn't even get to,
an 18-hole disc golf course,
Yeah.
which was so challenging. Like not a single hole was like easy. They were tough. Like that's like a pro level disc golf course.
Yeah.
And then like the other thing too, so David his communication was awesome leading up to it, making sure like everything was set. Since there wasn't a group there, letting us like into the property a little bit earlier than the check-in time, like super flexible, really great to work with and planning and lining it up. But like being able to get in there earlier in the day too was awesome. So we got to spend most of Thursday like hanging out, playing games, versus just like Thursday evening. What was really great.
There was I don't know if you guys experienced it. There was this Thursday time warp in that, I don't know, for like, it was like we had 2 days of Thursday because we spent the first half of the day traveling, but then we got to the property and then it felt like I started a whole new day because it, like that Thursday was, I don't know, it felt, it felt like because I just lost all sense of time that day because it felt like once we walked in, it was like a morning, and then we ended up playing, eating, whatever, all the rest of that day. And for some reason, time kind of just was lost and expanded. It really was funny. I had to think about, this morning we were in St. Louis. We weren't here, right? Because it felt like we had been there for the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, Russ Cole in True Detective says that time is a flat circle.
Mm-hmm.
And season 1 and in the Gamers Ranch, time was a flat circle. It didn't exist. It was like, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat some food. It might be 2:00 in the afternoon. It might be 9:00 in the morning. Not really sure. It might be 4:00 when I go to bed, not really paying attention. Time just didn't exist. It was eat, drink, game, and then maybe nap.
Yeah.
Repeat. Yeah. You were talking about communication with David. I had reached out to him on the side just because I'm a crazy person and I like to run. And I asked him about his trails, and he, like, really quickly, like within a day, he sent me a whole map of like where his trails were and stuff, and what it looked like and whatever. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And he was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna really work to do kind of what you're looking for, but we could definitely take a look at it whenever. And I was like, all right, cool. But yeah, I mean, like his communication was awesome. He's super great to work with. So yeah.
So like lake stuff to do in the lake, disc golf, the kitchen, the loft area, the rooms. You walk into what is, like, for lack of a better word, a garage. It's a big kind of high ceilinged garage with really big windows, super bright, kind of fluorescent, like lights. I don't know if they're LED or if they were actual like Titan fluorescent lights or what. But just wall to wall metal racks of games, alphabetized, shelves full, like 3 very big tables with game toppers, like table toppers on them, a circular table where you could put games out, a ping pong table, like all that in the game garage.
Yep.
with like a sauna too that I don't think anyone ever used. But like, I mean, literally thousands of games, which is truly incredible at the scale. Like we talk about our board game collections and like needing the downsize and storage space. Like it was absolutely insane. It reminded me of like when you look at the board game library at like Gen Con or, other cons where like Milcog or others come, only bigger. I really think this library like dwarfs Milcog.
And super organized. I mean, really super organized. I mean, it was really cool to, like, I know we talk a little bit about the games we played, but I don't know, Ty, if you did. Like, I took some time where it was just like, hey, I can take a game off the shelf that I'm interested in. And there was a couple that I just pulled off and opened them up and read the rules. And I think there was like the Osmorn that we played, but he had like the full-blown Kickstarter. And so looked at some of that, and there was another one. So yeah, it was cool to have that at our fingertips, because there were some times in the downtime in between where I would just go and like look and like, oh, I wonder if he has that game. Go to the alphabetized section, pull it off, and then like, hey, we're not going to play it, but I'm going to open it up, take a look at it, and see if it's something that in the future maybe I play or buy or something else like that. So totally cool.
Yeah, and as you walk through the game garage, you come into, it was kind of like, and there's more. Like open another door, and you see this row of like probably 8 pinball machines. Golden tee. There's a foosball table, a pool table, a nice big comfy couch. This kind of like square area of like 10 computers, all in a local network. So like I'm calling it the arcade room. And then it had like the shelf of like the D&D stuff and RPG materials, huge bucket of dice. Like, it's just endless opportunity for stuff to do and play.
And it was out of order, but he had a Dance Dance Revolution machine too.
There is a DDR machine.
That was out of order.
I was surprised. I don't know if I was surprised, but maybe because but the pinball machines got a lot of action. Over the weekend. It was again, I think as people were downtime in between like that seemed to be like the draw. And sometimes in the evening, somebody would just be back there and running through that. And I know I think 2 of the 3 nights or whatever, I think I finished up my day with a golden tee on the golden tee, playing longest ball with, or closest to the pin with a few people and like that. So that was cool. Yeah, it was a great kind of ad, and it was just really cool. And we have to talk about Godzilla.
Matt Danner loved that game.
You haven't talked about best moments yet.
Yeah.
The other thing, I don't know, did any of you guys go out really late at night outside?
Not really late.
That sounded like cryptids were everywhere, between the frogs and the animals in the woods and stuff moving around, like, and it's so dark. There is no light pollution. There's no noise pollution. It is like remote and dark. So like when all the lights were off each night, I just went outside just to kind of like take in the silence, but it's not quiet at all. It's like super noisy.
Crazy, right.
And it's crazy how loud it is when there's not the traffic noise, the alarms, the siren, like nothing. It's just, and both of you guys live far enough like out in the suburbs where you're not getting a lot of like the city, light and noise, but like out there is a different world. And like that experience to just to, I don't know, not to get all woo woo and like connect with nature, but to like be out of like daily life was super cool too. And there were just moments of quiet, like where you could get that kind of disconnect, from everything, which was super awesome about the location too. That like, could you just go to an Airbnb in a neighborhood somewhere and rent a big house with like a hot tub and a kitchen table? Sure. But this is like, it's a game paradise and just tons of stuff to do and isolate. So expectation versus reality. Any final thoughts on just location and what there is to do? And obviously if you're on YouTube, you're seeing some of this stuff. And it looks like a year in advance. So
I think hopefully we got it across, but I don't know if until you go there, like you're like, oh yeah, it's remote. Until you go there, you realize, no, it's remote. Like
Yeah.
It's like, it's a different level
You're
of remote.
30
And
minutes to get to somewhere where you might be able to buy snacks or
Right.
like a beverage or something. Like,
Yeah. And it,
there's not a lot of places you go these days where you're 30 minutes away from like a gas station.
yep.
Let's talk games. So we literally filled 2 marker boards with all the games that got played at BoD Con. So we're not going to go through I played this with so-and-so, I played that with so-and-so, but I think what we each did was just put together a brief list of 3 games that were new that we hadn't played before, and then 3 games that we played again and experienced again in some way at our time at BoD Con at the Gamers Ranch. So, Josh, how about you kick us off? What were kind of 3 new plays, and your just kind of brief thoughts on each of them or anecdotes about your experience with them?
Yeah, so I had never played Marvel Zombies before, and so it was definitely on my list of wanting to play. And I forget who said, "Oh, hey, I really want to play that." I was like, "I'm in," So I played Marvel Zombies. It was fun. We didn't flip over enough of the superpowers and stuff,
Yep.
or whatever they were called. I think they're called superpowers. But yeah, I would have liked to see more of those. But beyond that, yeah, no, it was a good time. It was fun. Definitely in the zombicide realm, right? And then Ty and I played Sky Team. That was sort of a staple that was set up on the one table for majority of the con, which I think was great because that was a good 2-player. Like, didn't take a lot of time, and you could play it pretty quick. And as long as you had one of the people that knew how to play, somebody could jump in and play pretty quickly. It's a game about landing a plane, and you roll dice, and depending on what you get, you have to kind of put them in different areas, like tilting the plane one side or the other, or engines, and you got to put the landing gear on, and they have to go in certain spots. So, and you can't table talk. That's the kicker, right? So, if Ty's playing a 6 for the engine, I also need to play a 6 for the engine, or whatever. So it's a lot of interesting interactions that way. And then a game that I wasn't sure going into it if it was going to be fun or not. It was Flick 'em Up. There's a bunch of little cowboys and a bunch of little outlaws, and you're flicking little bullets at each other. It was just a fun little dexterity game that kind of kicked us off.
It was fun. I think
first games.
Yeah, and everybody I think brought the right attitude to it. Like nobody was playing to hardcore to win. Everybody was there to have fun. It was fun, because I think Ty and Ben or whatever, I don't know who set that up, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was a good little get everybody going kind of game. So yeah, it was fun.
Troy, how about you?
So I also had Sky Team on my list because I played Josh and we didn't crash the plane, so it's good. And that was all because Ty had mentioned that before, so I saw it sitting on their shelf and grabbed it and threw it down. And Dan and I played that right away, and that was cool. As again, like we said, is we just left that set up for the whole weekend for people to just sit down quick and as a filler game. Then we played. I think was it Friday, Saturday? I don't remember what it was. They're all blending together. I played Project Elite, which is older game. I think 3 or 4 years old, from Cbon. It is the interesting thing there is you have this real-time component. It's alien. You're kind of whatever space marine kind of space. Whatever, safe soldier guys kind of on this planet. The aliens are trying to overrun your base, and you have to do some stuff. The cool part is you kind of plan things out, and then there's this real time turn component where each player is kind of real time trying to roll their dice to get different actions to either move or shoot or stuff, and so it creates this kind of, I don't know, with anxiety. Hypes up this stuff. I think we were playing with Jeremy, and I'm like, I'm getting all nervous, and he's stressed out. He's like, no other game's getting me stressed out. Why is this? So it's cool. Yeah, I had heard it and kind of seen it. I have it sitting on the shelf over there. I think it's still in shrink, so again, one of those opportunities where like, oh, let's give this a try and run. And it took us a little while to kind of get our head wrapped around how, because of the real time stuff, it without somebody who's played before, we had kind of stepped slowly into it, mostly because partly because we didn't quite know all the rules. But what was good is we got there and then we were able to run through and play some stuff. So that was fun. Again, I'll probably now break open my copy and play that again as a good. Again, it's a kind of a medium. I would say, kind of medium weight, kind of a different version, like a Zombicide type weight kind of game. But maybe if you're looking for something a little different than like a Zombicide or something like that. So.
And don't forget, if you do play it, don't use the little egg timer that comes with it, because that's garbage. They have an app. Yeah, your brother downloaded the app, and it had like music, and it made like
yeah.
Totally.
And that added, I forgot, like that added a whole bunch of atmosphere to it too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's a free app, so download it.
Yeah. And then the game that I was probably my favorite of the things I discovered over the weekend, and was on my list going into the weekend, because I think we played, I don't know, half a dozen different racing games over the weekend, because that's what the Weiss brothers tend to do. Ben and I and Jeremy on some evening, I had grabbed Thunder Alley, which is actually a 10-year-old game that is basically I would say NASCAR. But basically stock car racing game, kind of simulation. It's more of a simulation of a race versus kind of individual cars that you're moving. You basically have a team of cars, and then you're interacting with the cards kind of all. They will, you're moving activating each of your cars, but there's all kinds of different kind of movement in terms of drafting, pushing, that really you affect all the cars around you as you kind of do that. It made us, Ben and I were thinking about it. It really felt like a little bit of the stock car racing game from back in the day that we had played. Had some elements of that, and that just had some, as like when everybody pitted, had a really cool feel there. So it did exactly what I was hoping it would do, and even better. It's just interesting. It's kind of an old, you got little chits, cardboard chits. There's, the components are not, they're 10-year-old. You'd see in a game 10 years ago. It'd be interesting to see if they ever do that. Or again, that's an opportunity to kind of maybe do some 3D print upgrades or something else like that. But that was probably my favorite discovery. I might have to figure out how to get a copy of that game, because I think I would, again, definitely play that again with what was great is like a lot of racing games are better when you have a little bit more people. Again, with 3 was a blast. And I think even with 2, it could be interesting because of the way the cars kind of all interact with each other. So
very cool. Well, speaking of racing games, one of the games that was new to me that we played was Heat. So kind of a cool deck building mechanic to keep your car going as you're kind of jockeying for position. I think there's likely some complexity that can get added perhaps to the game, which would make it maybe a little more fun. But we kind of just did the strip down like starter, go do a first race, and more people definitely I think made it more exciting too. I think if that was like a 2-player game, I'd be like,
yeah, no, it definitely,
But playing with like 6 or whatever we did or 7 was pretty fun.
It was pretty good. Yeah. And again, once you understand kind of the basic mechanics around kind of balancing that heat and stress level kind of stuff, then you can add in, there's a few more complexities you can add into the game. And we thought about it because they had the expansion there. But we never got back to that. There were too many games, not enough time. And so we never got back to doing like a full blown version of Heat, but
yeah, it was good. It was a good game.
Then 2 games that were kind of on my list of ones I knew I wanted to play, and I'd taken some time to like research and watch in advance, and they still took a while to learn, were Tapestry. So that's a Civilization kind of building game that Jamie Stegmaier made a couple years ago, I think recently, but a few years back, which was actually really cool as we got the hang of it. Once we got a few of the slower kind of first clunky turns through, played that with Heath and Tom and Ben, and I think everybody really enjoyed it once we kind of got a feel for it and understood what you're doing. Some very interesting scoring mechanics and how you build your civilization, and the tracks you go up. So that was a really fun game.
Yeah, and I know Ben and I, when we talk, like that was, I think, one of his favorite games of the weekend. He really, really enjoyed that, and so he was excited and might have to find that again. So,
yeah, it's definitely one that I don't know if I'll buy it because of how infrequently it would probably get to the table, but certainly it was a really great game, and I always like Civ games, and it really captured a lot of the elements well. So. And then the other one, on a Stegmeyer kick maybe is, so Scythe, it's really the sequel. It's not an expansion. It's a different game entirely. Expeditions, where there's been meteorites that have fallen into Siberia, and you are the mechs, you're going out to explore and find. And I think the game's really good. I want to play it again. I think learning it was really slow and clunky.
Yeah. And then I bailed on you guys.
Well,
but yeah. I think it was also a good. We got about halfway through, not even.
And then we started to get it and go. Yeah. But I think it's a game that would have been a big benefit if somebody had known it better to kind of explain it. And also, if we had an egg timer for turns, would have helped.
Because I think once you know it, it should go pretty quick, right? It's because you're only doing you're doing two things.
You do two things,
or you're not doing anything, or saying, "Guess what? I'm resting," and doing to go through. Because it is, I think you described it as, it was good to get a feel because it's hard. It was a game that without kind of even watching playthrough, it was hard to get a feel. But once you got in there, like you said, it feels like more of a race. It's like you're trying to kind of, how do I optimize my actions to basically
get out, solve quests,
kind of
get rewards.
And it's not even an engine. It's just how do I do the actions I need based on what things are on the board, and kind of have a plan for how do I get. And then it's kind of that race for a lot of the Stegmeyer things, right?
Yeah,
there's different claiming the glory. Yeah, and that like you said too, there's not a lot of player interaction except for more of the worker placement piece about, again, you can't be in the same space as somebody else's. So if they're in your space, but it's not like they're going to stay there all the time. And then the same thing for even the scoring, you want to you're going to race people to get to kind of that glory or whatever they called it. Cause there's only going to be so many slots to score those things. So that's what it feels, as we got far enough through it, felt like it's going to be. And so I think, so ideally, you get, once people get it underneath them, it actually should be a fairly, I don't know what it's not a super, definitely not as heavy as Scythe itself or anything else like that. So, we'll have to get that maybe to the table as a full game and bring Josh along or something. So,
yeah,
for sure.
Let's talk then. So that was 3 games that were kind of new to us or hadn't played before, but had wanted to play and were available to play. Let's talk though, kind of either classics or kind of games that you went back to when you were at the Gamers Ranch, that you took off the shelf and sat down. I'll actually start. So, and I'm going to go in reverse order. So, our friend Bill was there, and he's not really a gamer. And he said, "Hey, do you want to play Terraforming Mars?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Let's go for it." So I'd played a number of years ago, so kind of refamiliarized myself with the rules, and Heath joined in, and he hadn't played it. He's like, "Oh, I've heard this is fun. Sat down and kind of was teaching the game to them. And I had developed kind of a theme of destroying things. So I was the warmongering civilization and tapestry. In Terraforming Mars, I was trying to destroy the environment. So I was blowing up nukes. I was bringing asteroids down onto the planet, chaining comets. So it is possible to terraform Mars via nuclear explosions. It increases the temperature and allows the oceans to flourish. Ignore the radioactive wastelands. Build your cities next to them. That's what Heath did. So Terraforming Mars was one I had played previously that was new for those guys. So we had a lot of fun with that. Then we did play Arcs. So Troy and I, we talked about, just a little bit ago here about how we played it and the second playthrough. But that, that was a great experience playing that with John and I think Heath. I played a lot with Heath this weekend, which was pretty cool.
Good.
To groups kind of form and you kind of circle around and play with other people, but got a lot of those games to the table that he was like, oh yeah, I really want to check that out. So it was super cool that he was there and to play some games with him. And then what was almost the last game of BoD Con was a late night Carcassonne, which was the unofficial sibling battle for supremacy. Is all three Weiss brothers and both Tepfer brothers played Carcassonne at like 3 a.m.
Yep.
Or 2 a.m.
About 2. It's about 2. Yep. Because there is no time.
No, there is no time. And then the Weisses went to bed, and the Tom and I were the last two up. And we're like, well, we got to play one more game. So we circled the gaming shelves and we walked around for like 15 minutes trying to find something and we landed on a game called Spellbook, which was really forgettable, other than it was just kind of Tom and I sitting down learning a game, which is something that even though we live close, we don't get a chance to do all that often. So at BoD Con and Gamers Ranch, it was cool just to experience a new game with him, take something off the shelf and play till like 4:30 in the morning when we finally called it and went to bed. Josh, how about you? What were 3 games that you got to play again that you enjoyed at BoD Con?
Yeah, I forget who set it up, but Zero was set up, and it I know I talked about it earlier, right? But it had been a game that I hadn't played in a long time, and I just remember like the simplicity of it, right? It's simple, but it's also like, I don't know, there's something to it, right? It's fun. So it was a quick like starter game, I think, the first day, and that sort of kicked it off for me. I think it was the first game I played. But
I think Dan set it up right away.
Yeah, I think he brought his copy actually.
Oh, was that it? Okay.
Yeah, it was there. I think it was again. He brought like just a couple of games, and that was one he just had. And so he just kind of threw it down because he knew it would be easy to like people just to dive in and do it. So
yeah, I thought that was really fun. Like just to kind of kick things off, right, with a simple game. So Seven Wonders Architect. I remember us playing it once a while back, and maybe once or twice, and I just remember that being a fun game. When somebody said, "Hey, let's play this," or I think I might have sat down and you guys were playing or whatever, so I jumped in. That was fun. And then Thunder Road Vendetta. That was actually at the hotel the night before, but I just remember how like silly fun that game is, right? It's crushing cars into each other and hitting ramps and whatever. So, it was a good way to kick off the weekend at the hotel. So, I had a blast playing that too.
What about you, Troy?
Cool. Yeah, I think everything you guys said except Terraforming Mars. That's the only one I didn't play out of your guys' list. And then all the stuff. Again, the things we all talked about. Marvel Zombies was fun to get. Again, because the only time I had played is when Ty, you and I kind of broke it out of the box to learn it. So it was good to play that and help kind of semi-teach the rules. We figured it had been a while, so we had kind of relearned some of that. Heat, like that game. Again, it's fun always to get a lot of people to do a racing game. That's that. And then Arcs, I think from just the gameplay perspective, that was one of the just fun to get that second play in, because again, it feels like it's, as we talked about, it's going to be a game that over multiple plays it's going to kind of grow and continue to there's going to be something new in each one, but you're going to get more and more familiar the more plays of it. So
mm-hmm.
And Josh, I meant to ask, Marvel Zombies, I know when Troy and I played, and I think we even talked about, one of the things that I felt was, I wish there was more superhero powers to make you feel like more of the hero aspect. Like it felt like you're a little limited in what you can do to me.
Yeah.
Did you get that feeling at all where you're like, I wish there was a couple more powers or a couple more different things to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually why I mentioned like I think they're called superpowers or whatever, like the deck, right? That you get
The
to
deck,
flip.
yeah, well, I
Yeah,
can't think of
yeah.
what it's the equivalent of equipment in regular
Yeah,
zombie
right.
side,
It
but
felt
it's like
so limited,
attributes or something like that where
single
you
use or like
Yeah, they were very.
Yeah,
I thought they were going to be
situational.
more persistent, and
Yeah.
like you get to fly or get to do something cool,
Yeah.
But yeah, it did seem a little limited. So, yeah, I don't know if they ever tweaked it. I think that would be something that they could look into. But
Yeah, and we again not enough time or whatever. I still we need to play the X-Men, the flip version where it's non-zombie heroes
Mhm.
versus zombie
Yeah.
actual zombies. That's
Yeah.
sitting over here too, somewhere over there.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was sitting on the shelf, but we never got it again. It's like we were like, oh, we'll get that later, and some other game filled the spot.
It was in the arrival section of show notes, and I briefly want to touch on it before we talk highlights, because it is kind of a highlight. But Josh set a registration desk up with a will call sign where you could get your badges, because yes, we had badges that he made, and your swag bags for BoD Con I. That I think got showed on, if you're watching on YouTube earlier in the show, I think Troy held up his bag as well when he talked about it. But, the staff was not very
That's
accommodating. Not very accommodating. I asked some questions. I had some issues with the QR code. I didn't get a lot of help.
I
But-
think you were referred to an 800 number. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, it ended up being the number that you used to call to kill time, where you just listen to the weather and the movie, what's showing at the movie theater. But no, Josh did. Both of you put together the assortment of things that went into the swag bag. So it was a cool mix of stuff, and and one of the highlights was seeing Sir Slayin, the knight and mascot of Playin and Slayin, with his dice in his hand and his keg of beer on the floor. That everybody got a con exclusive miniature. So we Hero Forge, and then Josh printed. But the swag bag and the will call, there was no vendor hall. I was told there was going to be a vendor hall that never opened up, but that was pretty cool.
It was. I mean, I know we had kind of the behind the scenes. I mean, I think as soon as we did this, Josh was like, we're going to do a swag bag, right? So we had kind of semi-secretly behind the scenes put together all this stuff. And then Josh, you went above and beyond. And again, thank your wife for the cricket, because the cricket on the bag too was like the frosting of of having that. And then, but what was cool was seeing the other guys who didn't know we were doing that, and then all of a sudden when Josh sets up the little will, at first they're like, oh yeah, there's a will call thing, and then it was like, oh, badges, all right, cool, we got badges, and then Josh is like, no, there's a swag bag, and just seeing the other guys and kind of their surprise on that was pretty cool. And then, and even I don't think we mentioned it, like Josh was able to pick up a bunch of kind of cheap board games, good board games, but cheap board games, and so even there was a couple of board games in everybody's bag, along with various swag of BoD swag that I have, whatever. And then the con exclusive miniature too was also a very, very cool kind of thing. So it's cool to see the other guy, kind of the surprise on the other guys' faces when they realized how that it was a legit swag bag they were getting, and not
just some garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry goes, were these from your basement? And I'm like, no, these are legit board games.
Yeah.
So let's just quick kind of go through some of the highlights or lowlights of the weekend, BoD Con. And I'll just kind of start one. We won't go through what we ate or what we did, but we did a big grocery shop. We kind of brought in all of our food, and then the one meal that we all kind of got together for each day, loosely, was dinner. And like seeing Ben and Tom and Bill and Jeremy and amongst others, like kind of prepping food and cooking, and everybody just kind of congregated for that like hour together and ate and hung out, was really cool, because as you play games, you break into smaller groups. There wasn't a lot that we all did together as a collective. So that was kind of the time for the big group to get together, and that was pretty cool, because it's a group of guys that we don't get together often. We might see them sometimes, but like all together in one place, I don't know that we ever have, like
Right.
this group. So it's pretty cool just to have everyone together.
So I think Artemis was one of my favorites. Like all of, like it was a great way to kind of like sort of end, right? Like it was one of the last big things that we all did together. The Artemis Bridge Simulator. And I don't know, I think everybody had a blast. Like we all had different stations, and I don't think anybody had done this before. At least I hadn't. I don't know.
I think hadn't Matt had done, maybe Matt had or something. That's what we made him the captain.
Yeah,
that was about it. Yeah.
He had very loose control over that ship as the weapons team shot our bases.
Yeah,
the fighter pilots sortied out for no reason and couldn't figure out what they were doing. I think comms was spot on. I was locked in. Every time he wanted me to send a message, or I communicated incredibly well, even so much so as piped music through for the crew to keep morale up, and insulted every enemy vessel.
Yeah, I think it might have. Yeah, there was the difference versus reality versus that, but that was pretty good. And I want to thank John for kind of he kind of got all the computers fired up and ready to go for everybody, because we knew we kind of wanted to do that, and then that was a blast. Yeah, it was a blast, because that was kind of the Saturday we did. It was nice as we were able to kind of do a couple of things where we did have a majority of the group all together to kind of put a kind of a cap on the whole weekend. And one of the next thing I will say is maybe that the Secret Hitler game that happened kind of after that, where I think we had almost everybody in that, about a 10 player, 10 or 11, playing Secret Hitler. If you haven't played that, it's just a fun probably the best secret role game, at least so far, although we have not played Blood on the Clock Tower, which is a little different, but from a lighter kind of hidden role game. Secret Hitler was fun. So
when Tom executed Ben and Ben was Hitler, that was like so good. That was just perfect.
It was good. It was great as it ended up being nip and tuck, because it could have. At first I thought it was going to run away, and then we were able to kind of,
because you fascists down at the end of the table were being squirrely.
Yeah. Well, that was my worry, is we were all like right next to each other, and so it was like, oh, this is going to be tough to like figure out how to like do this and not be whatever. But I was able to kind of use Matt against himself, which was the only thing that gave me a chance. That's like, I'm like, it's either this is going to fail spectacularly, or it's going to buy us some time, and it actually worked out pretty good.
So we've mentioned that Matt Danner, and friend of the show, was there. He was not a registered attendee, so there was no badge or swag bag, but one of the highlights,
you got a swag bag.
One of the highlights, Thursday night, Tom at one point Thursday afternoon says, I don't know if we should make anything of this, but Danner's been sending me some weird texts. And I'm like, yeah, because he's probably feeling left out, but there's no way, like there's absolutely no way that he gets here. Like, it's not like you can just. And Tom's like, yeah,
up on a plane, and
Tom's like, Tom's like, yeah, I haven't really heard from him. So later on, he's like, yeah, all right. So it was like 1 a.m, and John and Ben and Tom and I sit down to play Small World of Warcraft edition. Everyone else has gone to bed at 1:30 when we're playing, and I had taken Chinatown, which is a game that Tom and I have played with Matt, and I took a picture of it and I sent it to Danner, and it was ultimately like 15 minutes later where I swore I heard gravel outside, like car wheels on gravel outside of the garage door. And I got up and I walked out to the kitchen, and Tom said he heard it too and like didn't want to make a big deal of it. I walked to the kitchen, I kind of try to look out, but it's too dark outside. I turn around from the door, and all of a sudden I'm hearing a knocking. And like, there's Matt Danner walking in with a backpack, big hug at like 2:15 in the morning. I I pretty much cried. Like, I was like, this is unreal, hugging him. So good to see him. He booked a flight at 4:00. He booked a
Matt lives in
flight.
Seattle, if people don't know.
Seattle. Yeah. He booked a flight at 4 p.m. As he's driving to the airport, Elena's helping him book a rental car from the one place that stays open late at I think Alamo Rental stays open past midnight at the St. Louis airport. Books a rental car so that he can drive to the place when his flight lands at like 11:45. And it's 2 hours from the airport.
Yeah.
And we've described those roads and everything. Gets to the rental station. They don't have a regular car left. They give him a brand new red Charger. So he is hauling his ass down county highways and that gravel road
and that little bridge
and that bridge in a Charger, and shows up at 2:15 and then ended up camping out in the arcade on the couch. And then Troy got woken up by either the noise or Ben
when Ben came up
to bed, and Troy comes down into the game room and he goes, "What the fuck?" Sleepy Troy goes, "What the fuck?" No fucking way.
No, that was unbelievable. Highlight because all of a sudden, Ben came in at about 3, I think, when you guys whatever, and I was awake, and he's like, "Danner's here," and I'm just like, and then I'm laying there for like 2. I'm like, all right, I gotta, So I wandered my way down,
and then we kept it a secret, so we locked him up in the room, and Dan went in there to play pinball in the morning.
Well, the next morning, Dan wanted to take a walk with me, and I was like, "Yeah, sounds good." And he and I both walked past this bright red car. Didn't think anything of it. It didn't even register with me. We do our walk, and we come back, and I'm like, "Dan, was that car there the whole time?" And he's like, "I don't remember that car. Who drives that?" And Troy had just happened to be coming out about that time, and I was like, "Hey, Troy, whose car is that?" And you're like, "I can't tell you." I'm like, "What do you mean you can't tell? Whose car? Is there somebody else here?" And you're like, "I'm sworn to secrecy." And I'm like, So then I run in, it all kind of clicks for me, and I immediately run in and give Danner a big hug. That was hilarious. Oh man, what a surprise!
I don't even Tom and I sat there with Danner, and I don't know what we did. We did something. I feel like we maybe played a game, maybe hung out, stayed up till 4:30. Just catching up. It was a wild times. So Matt Danner arrival, and then he captained our Artemis ship, and then he,
and then Josh, maybe you can talk about it. Is that the disc golf tournament was basically the Matt Danner Invitational,
right? Because he wasn't supposed to be there.
Because he was
okay, well, let's he'll be there in spirit, right? It'll be his trophy, right?
Yeah, I named the disc golf event.
Right. So we went out. I think we went out twice. We went out Friday morning, I think without Matt, because he was still trying to catch up on a little bit of sleep.
He joined us in progress. I think he caught up.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right. Towards the end. No, actually, we had Ty on the first one. We had Ty on and then we had the true Matt Danner Invitational on Saturday afternoon. I think it ended up being where we went out and we actually kind of kept score. And Matt showed us how to play disc golf.
And he won his own trophy.
He won his own trophy somehow. Yeah. Or that. There was a little bit of, we only lost a couple discs in the water. People only had to dive in a couple times. Mm-hmm. So we rescued yours, Josh. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We didn't lose yours. We were able to rescue yours.
Huge tree branch. He's pulling it back.
So I lost mine. I went in, once we got over to the real part of the lake, I had one totally break the wrong way. And
between the weather and my experience in the humidity and the number of beverages that I consumed, Saturday just felt like a stay inside kind of day. Mm-hmm. But also my first disc on Friday morning's practice round went into the water. My first throw went into the lake, and I was like, yeah, this is not this is not boding well. Tom got a kayak and like went
Yeah,
and
we didn't have-
retrieved it, and then Ben was there later, like out patrolling to throw another one that I threw into the lake bag. But buying those floatable discs was like the best thing I ever did.
That was key.
Knowing I would be in the water most of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Disc golf, Artemis, Secret Hitler, dinner times, the Danner surprise. I think the outdoor activities, the 5K winner, Josh Koopman.
I ran a 5K, so that was 6 on the year.
You won. You won a 5K race.
And then canoeing with Danner afterwards. So I ran a 5K, came back, and then Danner woke up and he goes, "Hey man, you didn't wake me up." And I'm like, "Well, you were snoring pretty hard. I didn't want to wake you." He stayed up later than me. And he goes, "Are we going?" I'm like, "I guess we're going again." So yeah, we ran another couple miles and then came back and canoed, and that was fun. So always good.
It was fun.
Always good to chat with Matthew Danner, whether you're canoeing or playing a game or whatever. Yeah, it was a great surprise that he came. So
it was cool. Yeah, I was saying it just on I mean, he had a full set of kayaks and canoes, and it was fun. I mean, Ben and John and I don't know the last time we would, or last or first, I don't know that we ever went out all together, but it was cool to, we were all out there. I think that was, I don't remember what day it was, but we were all out there on
time is a flat circle. We don't care. It doesn't matter what day it was. What time of day
we were all out there, and I was just looking back, and I have a picture of the three of us out there. So that is just kind of cool. Yep.
And then Saturday night, we did an awards ceremony. So Josh talked about 3D printing and making the awards. There was a survey, QR code got you there, allegedly, on the back of the badge, where you could vote for your favorite person for each award. And I think there was an anti-hero award. There was a sous chef, the Bryce Scholes Michelin Star Award.
Yep. The Lucky Duck Award. I think Tom won the Lucky Duck Award. Bryce Scholes Michelin Star Award was Ben.
Yep.
That's highway robbery.
Tortillas pushed him over the edge.
Tom's mashed potatoes.
They were pretty good. Yeah.
They were good too. Yeah.
It was a tough. People did a great. Yeah. Like
it was within a vote, I think. Yeah.
Well, it felt like, I don't know if it felt like, I guess Tom
recency bias. Ben had the recency bias of dinner that night.
The dinner that night, yeah. Well, I think Tom said he actually voted for Ben because he didn't want to vote for himself. But yeah, he was he was kind of leaning over on that one, but it was good. And then I did not play, but there was an epic Zombicide Invader game that went on sometime on Saturday. I did not play in it. Ben, I think, pulled it together and got everybody to run, but it was the game that got Dan the anti-hero award for some crazy shenanigans at the end of that game, where he runs back into the aliens to save whoever he needed to save, only to a turn later be overwhelmed by the zombies and aliens and things like that. I was not there. I didn't, but we heard the story a couple different times. So that sounded like there was a very epic game that went on there.
I'm grateful that Dan was the bad guy, because I was worried when I saw that was an award, because Terraforming Mars and Tapestry, like I had this warmongering, even Twilight Imperium. I had research ships that were invading Heath's galaxy space. Like, I was very aggro in a lot of games, and I was really worried. So I was glad to hear that Dan so prominently destroyed everyone's chances.
And Dan, one of the nicest guys, right? He wins the anti-hero. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then best sports, Troy Weiss. Nice job.
Wherever it is. I can't do this mirror thing. There we go.
There
Mr. Congeniality himself, Troy Weiss.
Exactly.
Just whatever. Treat people like you want to be treated. That works.
And don't be a dick. BoD Con champion, Tyson Tepper.
That was
That was a landslide victory, too, by the way, for what it's worth. Landslide.
I voted for somebody else. I didn't vote for myself.
It wasn't unanimous, so I can confirm. Yeah.
But no, it was a cool just moment, and the vote was fun. And the 3D printed trophy cups, championship cups, can hold liquid. I poured some Tito's and Liquid Death tea into one and drank from it after my victory. So, all right. So now planning for BoD Con 2 begins. So, I have to write a review on Google for Gamers Ranch. David asked that I would do that, so I'm going to do that. But then my next question to him is going to be, can I see the calendar for selecting a date for BoD Con 2? Because I don't care who's coming with me, but I'm doing it. And if it's a tie goes and plays solo games, for $6,000, so be it. But it's gonna happen no matter what. I don't know if it'll be next summer, if it'll have to be like later. But the other thing I was thinking too is, maybe it's a spring or a fall. Like, I don't think it really will matter too much time of year, as long as travel isn't an issue.
Yeah.
So, but BoD Con 2 will happen. Gamers Ranch will be the destination. More to come. Details to follow. But
yeah, cool. Yeah. And I will say, just on our way out, that Matt and Ben and I were slow because Matt and Ben had to head for the airport on whatever day that was, Sunday, Monday, depending. And we did get a little visit from Dr. Gabe. Because he was back from his vacation where he couldn't join us for BoD Con, but late Sunday he was back. And so we actually got to have a beer with him and visit with him kind of late Sunday night before Danner headed for the airport. So that was kind of our end of that. But for BoD Con 2, we're going to, hold Gabe since it's basically in his backyard.
Right.
Did any medical consultation happen? Any bumps get looked at, or rashes from the woods? Anything at all?
Not that I know of. We didn't take advantage of that.
He could have checked everybody for ticks.
Right. He should have done that. That's what should have been
Which, funny enough, a text message in a group chat today was Danner saying, literally just found a red tick on me. Might be a Fed tick on me. It might be from out here. Pretty sure the dude came from Missouri, which spurred some texts about how Stowaway Ticks would be a good band name, and some album ideas and songs, and then talking about looking for ticks and not finding any. But so check yourself. Check yourself.
The ticks are real out there, and Danner might have been the most in the woods of any of us. So
when he threw his water bottle into the woods, allegedly,
you name it. I believe at any point during the golf thing, he either left his shoes, phone, water bottle, or Frisbee somewhere on the course that he wasn't, to have to go back and find them. Yeah.
That explains a lot for how games went later that night. One game I forgot to talk about, and I probably should have put on there instead of one of the ones I did. Skyrise.
Oh yeah.
I ordered it. Yep. By the way, I'm going to show it to you guys because I think it'll be one we can talk about in depth. But Skyrise, really cool. And Radlands was a card game too. That there was so many games that I hadn't played.
Well, episode 82. We'll go back to the list and pull out.
We'll revisit BoD Con.
Yeah, because we have other things, other games there.
So
we'll talk about probably.
Any closing thoughts from you guys on BoD Con, the experience, it
was great. Like it was exactly what I needed, and it was more amazing than I thought it could have been. So, it exceeded expectations.
Yep. No, it was
10 out of 10. Would recommend.
Yep. yeah, the awesome, again, thank everybody, all 11 of us that ended up being there. And again, it was all, like you said, we'd never probably had that exact 11 group of guys all together in the same place, but we had different parts of those people and different things, and everybody was cool, and everybody wanted to play and help cook and whatever. It was just, I mean, they're all our friends for a reason, and it was just cool how everybody came together. And I think hopefully it seemed like everybody talked to also said they had amazing times. So it was great, and thanks everybody that made it happen.
Absolutely. And in closing, last episode, Troy, we talked about community building and that third space and that group of people. So it's just really, really cool. That I think heading into it, I had a thought that it could be that cool, but then it blew me away and was just an awesome, like, I don't want to go overboard and say a once in a lifetime, because it will happen again, but like definitely was a special time. And, I want to thank you guys too for keeping me sane in the lead up to it, because there was a lot of anxiety and worry about the cost and the planning and who we were going to be able to get there and all the logistics. So you guys kept me from going full on type A scheduling to make sure it went well. So thank you guys for helping get it ready, for being there, for hanging out, because it was truly just a really awesome experience that 110% was needed, and really like lifetime type memories. So
and thank you for setting it up. I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Ty, you were the driver ever since day one of like, hey, let's make this happen, right? I think it was you had seen something and you're like, hey, we're this, and then it was just like, I'm gonna try and make this. I'm going to make this happen. It wasn't even a try. Like, I'm gonna make this happen, and you've been the driving force behind it. And I don't want to get too, but I think what you said is it is a once in a lifetime experience. We will never have that exact group of guys together. It will never be that time. We'll never be in this place in our lives. And so it is, like you said, it is lifetime memories. There's something there. Even if we go back again, it'll be a different experience. That'll be just as amazing in some of that. So it is cool to kind of create memories like this. So
that's going to do it for episode 81. We're going to head into a little bit of wrap up, news and events, and then show close. So if you liked what we said about the Gamers Ranch, check it out, plan a trip, go with your friends. Just do it. It's one of those things where truly I can't sell you on it if we haven't already, but like, if you have the means and the time, make it happen, because certainly it's great. Gamersranch.com. Any questions, there's an email and information and tons of reviews. So certainly want to say that. Want to thank David at Gamers Ranch once again, just on the off chance that he listens or at least checks it out when we shoot him a note. But other conventions coming up for the BoD crew and Playin and Slayin in some ways, shape, or form. Gen Con right here in a couple weeks in Indianapolis. Troy, I think you're still planning on going and hanging out with Sarah.
Yep.
So doing the couple days or you doing the full?
Well, again, Thursday and Sunday we mostly travel. We're gonna go down Thursday, so we'll be there Thursday late afternoon, evening. So kind of Friday, Saturday hardcore, and then pull ourselves back. So we'll get to see Matt and Elena again, probably there. So
burial
and a Dr. Gabe, right? And
so. All right. Then Gamehole Con, we start fall kind of conventions, October, Madison, Wisconsin. Just saw that their, I think, event list or something went up related to Gamehole recently, but planning on being there. Dragonfall is either the same weekend or the week after, right around there.
Yep.
As is Holy Wars. They're all kind of one after another, so you kind of pick and choose. I know Bryce and I are signed up. We'll see if we do it. I think we still have to pay Steve. We're terrible friends. So Steve, if you're listening, sorry, we're terrible, but we will pay you, and we will buy raffle tickets too. So, and then Adepticon Milwaukee 2025 March, be here before we know it. Big things coming. Hopefully next few episodes we can really dive into that in some depth. But hopefully you've enjoyed, and if you have enjoyed, or if you haven't, if you got some feedback, commentary, anywhere you listen, leave a review. iTunes, Spotify. Can you review on Spotify? I don't know. But wherever, find us, review us, like us, subscribe on YouTube, all that stuff. Join the community, and chat in the YouTube comments with one or two people that do every episode. We're on.
We appreciate them greatly. The people that
at Playin Slayin Show on formerly known as Twitter, basementofdeath.com, and what's this? playinandslayin.com.
Yep. That goes
I
to
didn't even know that.
You didn't know that? Oh, it
No.
goes to all the episodes on
Amazing.
that. Yep.
Hobby challenge for episode 83 is going to be a Sir Slayin painting competition where we each paint our own mini, and audience votes on the winner, and the winner gets to take episode 84 off.
Mine's sitting on my desk. It's right over there. I have it in a little whatever those handles, and it's all.
Oh man, let's go. All right, that's gonna do it. Episode 81. Keep the dice rolling, the drinks on ice, and no matter what, keep playing and slaying at the Gamers Ranch.